And a very good evening to everybody. This is Christopher Daigan coming to you from my home in KwaZulu-Natal. We hope that you can join us for the next hour or so in our session, in-concert session. It's Saturday evening, it's Saturday the 10th of July, and we have a really spectacular program of music for you tonight. It is 6:02, and this evening I had advertised that I was going to play a sonata by Frédéric Chopin, very substantial four-movement work. I am going to play it, but I'm not going to play it tonight. I'm needing some more time to work on that. It's a piece that I have played before, but it's rather extensive and rather difficult, and I would really like it to be as good as it can be. So I'm going to give myself another 2 weeks or so and reprogram that. But this evening, I thought that actually we could come back to a selection of very beautiful, popular classics. I'm always cautious about playing the same pieces quite regularly, but in fact everybody that I've spoken to has said that they actually really like hearing very familiar pieces and also hearing pieces that are just some of my favorites. So this evening I am going to do that. I'm going to play an in-concert session of really popular classical music by Bach, Mozart, Schubert, Beethoven, Chopin and Schumann. And I'm going to play them in pairs, so I really hope you enjoy this evening's selection. I think it's going to be a wonderful choice of music, and I'm really aware at the moment how many people are connecting with these streams, listening to these programs and enjoying them, and really finding this hour of music, beautiful music, familiar music, a real oasis of positivity, of joy, and of hope in their lives. So this evening's program is all about those very gentle, beautiful moods. And I'm going to start off with two compositions, the first of which is the very celebrated Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring by J.S. Bach, as arranged by the pianist Myra Hess. As I always say, this particular piece of music from Bach, one of Bach's cantatas written for orchestra with choir, was being rehearsed in England, and the pianist Myra Hess passing by, entered the room and heard this music and was so overwhelmed by the effect of it, because it is really very beautiful music. It's such a memorable melody that Bach writes, and the combination of this unwielding, this flowing, beautiful line flowing, and then with the chorale or the hymn in between that the choir sings, really is very striking. And she decided to write a solo piano version of it, which is what I'm playing this evening. It combines both elements. It's about the sounds of creating the imitation of the orchestra and of the choir together. It's a wonderful piece of music, Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring. And straight after that, I am going to play the first movement of the sonata in F major, case 332 by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. This is one of my favorites. I often play this piece. I think it's really one of Mozart's sunniest pieces. It's full of joy, it's full of variety and exuberance and life, but throughout there's a great sense of buoyancy, a great sense of joy that pervades the music from beginning to end. That was the sonata, the first movement, Allegro sonata from the sonata in F major, case 332 by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And before that, the very celebrated Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring from one of the cantatas by J.S. Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach, as arranged for the piano by Myra Hess. Before we continue, Barry, just to check, did you remember to push the recording? We need to record this.
Oh, you know.
Okay. So, well, I'm going to continue then with my program with music by Ludwig van Beethoven and Franz Schubert. So, of course, Beethoven's celebrated one of his most beautiful compositions, certainly the Sonata Pathétique, a sonata that he did give a title to, unlike the Moonlight and the Waldstein. This was a sonata that Beethoven inscribed at the head of the music, Grand Sonata Pathétique, saying this music is full of pathos. And it really was saying to his audience that he is taking a grand leap forward and injecting and releasing his energy and his emotions and his feelings into the music. And of course, the most beautiful part of it is the middle movement, the slow adagio cantabile, adagio meaning slow, cantabile meaning singing. And it's really one of Beethoven's most beautiful melodies. It's written in the lower half of the piano, the keyboard, so you have this beautiful richness, and I think it's really quite an extraordinary piece of music, even though it's still relatively early composition. Opus 13, probably written in about 1790 or 1798. The second piece of music, which I'd like to play in this set, is really a very extraordinary piece as well, also, but this time by the composer Schubert, Franz Schubert. And it's one of his impromptus. Schubert wrote 2 sets of impromptus of 4 each. And from the first set, from the number 4 from the first set is this particular piece of music, which I keep coming back to again and again and again, because there is something so uniquely haunting about it. There is a simple refrain, a simple cascading element that Schubert repeats relentlessly again and again and again. And it really, there's something that the music somehow hangs, the music is persistent, yet it's at the same time very gentle. And through this repeated background, this repeated element, Schubert then slowly uncovers and slowly unfurls a number of different musical ideas, releasing them slowly to you as the listener. And in the middle section, a little bit more turbulence, a bit more of doubt maybe, or uncertainty, before the refrain of the opening returns once again. So that's the impromptu number 4 from the first set, Opus 90. But before that, I'll play the Adagio, the middle movement from the Sonata Pathétique by Ludwig van Beethoven. That was the Impromptu, Opus 19, number 4, the fourth of the first set of impromptus by Franz Schubert. And before that, I played the slow movement, the Adagio, the middle movement from the sonata, the Grand Sonata Pathétique by Ludwig van Beethoven. I seem to have lots of extraneous noises. My piano stool's squeaking away. I don't know why. It does it some days and not others. And even my shoes, which I've been wearing regularly, are starting to squeak on the pedal. And of course, the one note on the piano, which I really need the most, is out of tune, slightly today. I'm going to move on to some beautiful compositions by Frédéric Chopin. Most, or all of this program this evening, I've chosen specifically around the idea of relatively well-known or popular classics. I wouldn't say popular, but familiar classics, and also the fact that I've discovered from having done over 130 live streams that in fact many of the very intense pieces that are full of drama and virtuosity and great big sounds from the piano do not translate very well on the live stream. Bear in mind that as a listener, often you're in a hall seating 300 or 400 people or more, and you're quite some distance back, whereas here the microphones, what you are hearing at home, is positioned not even half a meter away from the piano or from the sound source. So it's a very up-close sound, but it does mean that you get to hear all the details and you can't miss out on anything. And someone else who's not going to miss out on anything is little Lucy, and here's little Luce. Come on, Luce. Let's have a chat to you today. Hello, little Lucy. Here's little Lucy, the long-haired Dachshund. How are you doing today, Luce? No, you're fine. Are you okay? Hands up who's okay and doing well today. Yes, who's happy? Yes, you are. And Luce, it's been a beautiful day, hasn't it? Yes, it has. And what did you do today? Oh, you went and barked at the neighbor's dogs. Yes, you did. And the monkeys. You barked at the monkeys in the garden with Frida and with Wendy Pop, your sisters. And barked at the neighbor's dogs, yes. And when you grow up, you want to be like them, like the neighbor's dogs. Okay. But Luce, that's quite a thing because they are Great Danes. But yes, that's true. They are big dogs. You won't be quite that big one day, but one day you will be bigger, I promise. Little pudding, you're getting quite big as it is, actually. Oh, we all are. Don't say anything. Not, yeah, I saw that look. Okay, are you going to sit quietly and we're going to speak to you later on? Yes, off you go. Okay, thanks, Luce. Thank you very much for coming along. So, continuing in this intimate atmosphere, a kind of home concert. I think a lot of Schubert's music was intended for home concerts, for house music. And I think in some ways that these live streams have actually reinvented that idea, because I'm sure all of you are sitting at home watching this in your comfort of your living room in front of the fireplace, or maybe on your phone, maybe even in bed. Who knows where you're experiencing this session, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. I'm going to move on to music, as I say, by Frédéric Chopin, and I'm going to start off with two very slight, very gentle mazurkas. These are traditional Polish dances, Chopin being Polish, of course, by birth. And in this music, the mazurkas, he expresses his most intimate thoughts, I think. There is an element of the dance, but at the same time, there is a very gentle and authentic lyrical feeling, something without pretension, without artifice, without construction. It's a very natural sound and a very natural approach he brings to the music. And these two mazurkas are pieces of music that were actually only published after his death, found amongst his private papers, and he might have withheld them from publication for various reasons. Either perhaps they were very personal, they were pieces that he didn't want to share with the general public, or perhaps he didn't feel they were complex enough or substantial enough or youthful compositions that he didn't want to put out to print. But of course now they have been, and I think they're very charming. These are mazurkas in G minor and A minor. I would then like to play a wonderful nocturne, the very first nocturne that he published from the set of Opus 9. He composed 3 nocturnes, Opus 9, and this is the very first one. And it starts without a left-hand introduction. Many of Chopin's pieces start off with an introduction of sorts, but this particular piece launches straight into the melody, this beautiful melody in the right hand, and then accompanied by this wavering left-hand pattern, which provides the basis or the water like a boat floating across a gentle lake. provides that basis for the boat to float upon. And the boat being the melody, it really pushes forward and allows the performer to really expand and create beautiful lines and colors, especially in the more adventurous middle section where Chopin gently meanders into some different regions before coming back to the opening theme. And then to end that section of Chopin's composition, I'd like to play 2 etudes from the set of Opus 25. These etudes designed to explore pianist technique or develop certain aspects of something that I've been particularly interested in, as you know. And from the set of Opus 25, they're 2 quite gentle pieces, but I think will fit into this program quite beautifully. The first one I'll play them in the reverse order, Opus 25 number 2, and then Opus 25 number 1. And interestingly, the Opus 25 number 1 was a piece that a number of people saw Chopin play and have written about quite extensively, including Robert Schumann, who described the melody like a shepherd playing a beautiful melody on a pipe in a very simple but ethereal way with these chords floating underneath. And he said he was astounded at watching Chopin's hands when he played, because his hands would stretch and open up like a large reptile opening its mouth to swallow its prey, he said. Not a great image to think of during these restful times. But anyway, here are 2 mazurkas, a nocturne, and 2 etudes. finishing off that selection of music by Frédéric Chopin, I played two etudes, number 2 and then number 1. I ended off with the first of the etudes from the set, opus 25. And before that, I played a nocturne, the opus 9, number 1 in B-flat minor, and started off with 2 mazurkas from the posthumous selection of posthumous pieces published after Chopin's death. Of course, as I always say, published after his death, not written after his death. That would be something completely different. I'm going to end off this evening's program, with 2 compositions by Robert Schumann. As I mentioned, Schumann, who had remarked about Chopin's playing and was a huge fan of Chopin, claimed Chopin to be a genius. Hats off, gentleman, a genius, he wrote when Chopin first published one of his earliest works. Chopin did not return the favor to such an extent and was not that crazy about Schumann's music, which he found very difficult to comprehend and to deal with. I am going to, however, play 2 pieces of music which I think Chopin might have had some inkling of a liking to. The first of which is from a set of Fantasiestücke, or fantasy pieces, by Schumann, opus 12. Because similar to Chopin's nocturnes, this is his own nocturnes called Des Abends, or At Evening. It's a beautiful nocturne, a beautiful unwinding long melody, not in the same style as Chopin, but certainly it has this lyricism and this very delicate atmosphere to it. The second piece, a very rarely played set of pieces, Schumann wrote opus 21, the Novelletten, and from this particular piece, which I'm quite fond of and I play quite often, or had played for a very long time from when I was very young, the first of these pieces, Schumann wrote to his wife-to-be, Clara, at the time, saying, I've written off 8 pieces, just rattled them off in a few days, full of excitement. They just flowed naturally. There were pictures and scenes of weddings, of celebrations, of romance, of great heroic tales. And from these 8 pieces, I'm going to play the first one, which I think gives us a sense of anticipation of the opening of the subsequent stories which you are going to hear. In this, Schumann contrasts 2 very particular ideas. The one is a very strong march, the other second, a very much more lyrical and expressive section. And he plays these 2 back and forward throughout the piece. So this is the Novelette, opus 21, number 1, but before that, Des Abends, the opening number from Schumann's Fantasiestücke. On that rather exuberant note, a very positive march, Schumann in his march-like phase, a contrast between that rhythm, the brilliance and the brightness of the march, and that lyricism of the contrasting sections, and between a real constant shifting between exuberance and dreaming. And I think it's exactly those contradictions, that constant shifting back and forward, that perplexed Chopin and many others. That does bring us to an end of this evening's session. I hope very much you've enjoyed the program. Hope you've enjoyed the selection of music, and I hope that you're all keeping well at these very difficult and challenging times. Thank you very much, Barry, for the technical support. And the only thing I can do is to wish you well, look after yourselves, stay well. My program on Wednesday, I will be back here at 6 p.m. as always, and I will be sending out a questionnaire this week, and as well as some more upcoming program details. I'd like to know more about how everyone is experiencing these programs. Of course, if you are able to support us, please do visit my website, where you'll find the links to all sorts of things like PayPal and PayFast, subscriptions, Quicket. You can buy a ticket, you can donate monthly, you could donate singly. We're obviously depending entirely on your voluntary support to run these streams, and also to keep making a living in these very tricky lockdown situations. So look forward to seeing you on Wednesday for another program of World Cafe music from around the world. Very light, going to be quite fun. And look after yourselves, keep well, and stay well.